So first of all, thank you very much for attending. The reason we're having this webinar at all is because I was speaking with my friend Mark McMurtrie, and I met Mark quite a few years ago through business networking events. And since then, he's become my insurance provider. He's covering not only my home, my business, and my cyber, and my vehicle actually. And long story short, as long as I've known him, everybody in our networking group has always been able to rely on him. He's never let any of us down. And those of us that have had a claim were pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to go through the process of, getting everything settled. An example of that is, I think it was during COVID, we had a flood in our building. And so I called Mark up on the phone, and basically within hours, we had people coming and doing an assessment, preparing to have the office renovated. And we had to move into a temporary office while we were getting things restored. Mark facilitated all that. And while the event was stressful, nothing about dealing with Mark or the agencies he deployed was a problem.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the agenda for today is these 4 things. We want to inform you what cyber insurance is and how it's designed to protect your business. We want to highlight how it works hand in hand with cyber protection services. So on one end is insurance. That's what happens when things go wrong. Cyber protection prevents things from happening. And then to help you understand what you need to qualify for cyber insurance. And then finally, to help you receive coverage if you need to make a claim. What we aren't doing, neither Foundation BTS, that's my company, Brokerlink, that's where Mark is, or Coalition, who's the insurance provider. We're not here to sell you anything today. We're just here to educate you. So I think it's time to turn it over to you, Alistair.
Excellent. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alistair McMurtrie. I'm one of the business development representatives at Coalition Inc. And I'm joined today with one of my colleagues, Ramya, who is part of the Coalition Incident Response Team, and she is responsible for the claims side of operations. So we were speaking to Paul and Mark prior to this to just, really get across the importance of cyber coverage, why it's relevant to you as a business, and why you should really be looking at not only coverage for your company, but partnering with the necessary people like Foundation BTS to provide cybersecurity services, because cybersecurity and cyber insurance do work hand in hand. So without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into it. So unfortunately, digital risk has spawned a new set of digital risks, and digital risks are significantly different than many of the other risks that we are used to dealing with as a company. So whether that be P&C, commercial business coverage, or even workers' comp. Digital risk is actually amorphous in nature. And what does this mean? It means that it's constantly evolving with new technology, and the shape of threats are often unknown. They end up changing day by day, or even sometimes minute by minute, which makes them harder to not only spot, but to monitor, price, and even transfer. Digital risk can strike with incredible speed. Nearly 1 in every 6,000 emails that is sent contains some form of a suspicious link. And at the speed at which digital threats can move from a single click to serious damage, it can only take a matter of seconds to impact your business. And finally, digital risk can quickly spread to amplify other aspects of your business. So not only can it shut down the heart of an organization, but digital risk can spread into operational, executive, and even HR risk, as so much of our businesses now rely in some way, shape, or form on technology. And truthfully, COVID can be thanked for that, speeding that process up, with a lot of people now working from home or accessing VPNs or working remotely as well. And why is that? Well, cyber risk is now the preeminent risk for all businesses of all sizes. Now, we were discussing this a little bit before everyone joined the call, but many businesses have kind of adopted this mindset of, I'm a small fish in a big pond, right? Why would somebody go after my business when there are multiple other businesses out there with much more revenue flow, with more capital, more money, whatever you want to call it? But the difference is that we see those quite frequently by way of news stories, right? So a few years ago, and they're still dealing with it, was the city of Hamilton suffered a very large breach, and that was all over the news. Indigo chapters in the same year had suffered a large breach, and they were offline completely for a few months. And then even last year, we had, it was called DealerSure, which was responsible for automotive companies being able to digitally process bill of sales for selling cars. They were hit with a ransomware and completely offline, impacting all of their customers that were utilizing their services. So about, nearly half of all these losses actually do occur to small businesses. The difference is they don't either have the capital or we don't hear about them in the news. And so we do anticipate that by the end of this year, the North American economy, cybercrime will end up costing it about $10.5 trillion. Now, this is because there are thousands of active threat groups that are operating internationally. Primarily, we see a lot in Russia, but they are operating all over the world. And now cyber has become more costly than all natural disasters combined. So that's your flood, your earthquake, and your fire. And we hear about that all the time and the importance of it. But cyber continues to almost take a backseat a little bit. And I think that's somewhat due to lack of knowledge and understanding, but just how quickly it has evolved from when it first broke into the scene to where we're at now.
Can you clarify that 10.5 trillion? Is that global, or did you say North America or global?
North America.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So it's extremely costly. I mean, the numbers speak for itself. It's because when we see these losses occur, a lot of people think it's going to be, for maybe a small amount, but usually there's outlandish requests that are thrown out by these threat actors to companies because they want to get any kind of money, right? So they will throw out hundreds of thousands of dollars of ransomware demands in the hopes of even getting $5, $10, $15, $20,000. At the end of the day, if they're able to get money out of your business, it is a success for them. And we'll get to reasons why that is a little later on. So cyber attackers have now become more sophisticated in their approach for a few reasons. One, artificial intelligence. Phishing-related claims have spiked alongside the rise of AI technology, and that makes these attacks much easier to execute by the threat actors because they've started to leverage AI tools like ChatGPT, and this can help them in writing credible phishing emails, and it can even translate the scams across multiple languages, not just English. They're able to generate individualized campaigns, and they're able to specifically put these targets toward companies with the ability to do so faster, which gives these attackers more time and cover to gain access to your network. AI is facilitating better overall communication in ransomware negotiations as well. So they're better at communicating now in English, and they're able to produce and leverage client exfiltrated data, such as legal obligations that the clients may face. Now, we also said that, there are thousands of operational threat actors, and that's because they operate almost like a business. So believe it or not, some of these operators, these threat actors, they operate almost similar to a call center, right? So they have financial-based goals based on ransomware. So if you can steal XYZ amount of dollars financially from clients and you hit your goals, they might be looking at bonuses. They might be looking at getting promoted. Because believe it or not, in certain places in the world, this operates more similarly to a legitimate business than one may think. It's very taboo here in North America. We don't think about it like that. Obviously, it's morally wrong that people are stealing money and information from people, but in other parts of the world, that's not the case. And then there's also more dwell time. So a common misconception with a lot of businesses is that when a threat actor gains access to their system, it's going to cause issues right then and there. It's not necessarily the case. What happens is these threat actors, once they gain access to your system, they go through a period of dwell time. So they go through this reconnaissance period where they're going to monitor email traffic, people coming and going, logins, suppliers that you may work with as a business, so that when the time is right, they can introject themselves into the email chain or to the email forwarding to make it seem legitimate that they are actually the person that the company believes that they are speaking to, and successfully put out a cyber attack, whether that is, a funds transfer fraud event, a ransomware event, anything along those lines as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ramya. She's going to touch base on some of these slides for the claim side of things. Once she's done, we're going to come back talking about security vulnerabilities, and that's really where Paul's Foundation BTS business, they're really great about partnering with an IT provider, because a lot of that information may be a little over the head of the average person, which is completely fine. But we're really going to highlight what these security vulnerabilities are and the benefits of partnering with an IT provider as well.
Thank you, Alistair. Hello, everyone. I'm Ramya Ragavan. I'm a Senior Incident Response Analyst with Coalition Incident Response, also known as CIR. Just a brief overview of what my day-to-day looks like. So my day-to-day involves working alongside Coalition Claims team, assisting policyholders who have experienced any cyber incidents. So we deal with a lot of ransomwares, a lot of business email compromises, and we see pretty much everything in between. For today, my goal for this webinar is to give you an update on the threat landscape and to provide a glimpse into what response and remedial efforts look like. So, cyber risk. This remains an unavoidable reality of doing business in a digitally connected world. So, we know threat actors continue to demonstrate their relentlessness, evolving tactics to exploit any new vulnerabilities and maximize their financial gain. In years past, we witnessed this dynamic firsthand with cyber claims, increasing in both frequency and severity across various industries and revenue segments. So we are seeing 12% increase in the claims frequency, and the average loss from the funds transfer frauds is $278,000. And most of the business email compromises that come to our table are from Microsoft 365 infrastructure. There are various reasons to it. While both Microsoft Outlook and Gmail are used by businesses, but because of Outlook's greater complexity and integration with other Microsoft programs, that makes it a more frequent target for BEC attacks. So whatever email infrastructure you use, having a good cyber hygiene and proper security protocols in place are crucial. Now, ransomware events continue to hover around 28% of all claims, though the devastating impact of these events were felt most in terms of severity. Unsurprisingly, ransom demands increased alongside more frequent attacks. So the average ransom demand is $1.4 million USD. Among ransomware claims that resulted in a payment, we, the Coalition Incident Response Team, successfully negotiated the amount down to an average of 60% of the initial demand. And to say good cyber hygiene goes beyond the act of purchasing a cyber policy, so it often requires a shift in how businesses approach their daily operations. So we always tell our policyholders to consider digital risk in every digital interaction, whether it's clicking a phishing link or any link or adopting a new software. So this is the power of active insurance, and it's why Coalition policyholders experienced 64% of fewer claims than the industry average. The number one most common incident type year after year is business email compromise. And as you can see here, nearly 1/3 of all reported incidents in the first half of 2024, I would say even until today, were email events, which eventually led to fund transfer frauds and at times ransomware. And why is that? So you know that there is a reason why we have the saying in our industry that the weakest link in the chain is what is sitting behind the keyboard. So the user here is the easiest element to exploit by far. And phishing emails, like Alistair mentioned, are very, very, very well crafted nowadays to carry out. And now even the attackers are using AI, and it can cause a very large damage. And the silver lining is that the email incidents are usually lower in claim severity. They are usually lower, like they are cheaper compared to ransomware. And 1 in 5 claims reported to Coalition is a ransomware event. So what is the key to minimize the impact of a cyber attack? It is to respond quickly and efficiently. So rapid response is crucial in the face of these threats. It needs constant adaptation to the landscape. And because threat actors evolve, cybersecurity and incident response have to adapt. So we have to be more quicker and more accurate. So we always break it down into 3 phases, as you see here: discovery, stabilization, and remediation. So rapid response begins when the client quickly spots the incident, and tools like tabletop exercises and any proper incident response plans help determine what to do next. So that's where Coalition comes in. So Coalition offers all the proactive services, which helps with tabletop exercises, which are simulated interactive scenarios designed to assess and enhance organizations' preparedness and also response capabilities against any cyber threats. So Coalition also offers incident response plan review, Microsoft 365 security assessments, and AD security assessments. All these assessments and plans play a crucial role in raising awareness about cyber risks, encouraging clients to take any proactive measures, and an ultimate goal here is to enhance their resilience to cyber attacks. Once a cyber incident is identified, it involves a pre-claims call to engage coalition early. Like if the user comes and tells you that they clicked on a malicious link and they do not know what to do, then you call the claims team and the claims team responds within 5 minutes. They coordinate with vendors with the option of coalition incident response team and any breach counsel who is on the panel. So we prioritize response efforts to minimize any damages. So as soon as the CIR team is involved, we schedule a scoping call or a consultation call, and then everything runs pretty quick from there. So I've given you an overview. Now I'm going to spend some time diving into the process of incident response and show you what it looks like behind the scenes in the slide.
Well, all I got is green code here. The first 5 devices are clean. Now if mom's comes back the same way, we struck out here too. Oh, there's malware.
So it definitely doesn't look like this. There's no such thing as green code malware that you can easily identify and shows up in red like this and makes it very obvious. I mean, it would be nice, if we have the super intelligent software that could do this work for us, but unfortunately, no. So let's go back to reality in the next slide. So this is one of my team's ransomware cases back in 2016. This one was from mid-April. This was really when ransomware started to ramp up. So before April of 2016, we knew that there was ransomware, but nobody really thought of it as a serious threat. It was only after April that everything kind of changed in cyber. And so this is the screenshot of an email from a ransomware threat actor. Obviously, the background is that we paid the ransom for a decryption tool, but it only worked on 60% of the files. Then the threat actor agreed to refund us 40% of the ransom amount. But we did not know how to set up crypto by then. So we did not know how to set up a wallet. And by then we got all this figured out. The threat actor was like, oh, haha, you actually used it up already. So, oh my God, sorry, LOL, you can see all those things. And then right there in red is actually one of the earliest iterations of a ransom note. So back then it was like a wild, wild west, but suffice to say, ransomware looks very different today, which you'll see in the next slide. This is actually from one of our Canadian clients about 3 years ago, and they basically recorded a phone conversation with a threat actor. Let's hear it.
So I will not call you actually anymore. This is the first and last time.
I don't understand. I don't understand how I go into a chat.
I can guide you now. You need a pen and a paper to write down how to do that. When you will double click this file, it will open in that Tor browser as a chat window. And that is the chat where you will communicate with my mates. You can type anything there like hello or something, anything you want, and you will get a reply very fast. And since then, negotiations will be started. We're not going to take a huge amount from you. We're not going to publish your data until we have successful negotiations. We will provide you samples what we have. We will provide you a sample of decryptor so you can be sure that it works. We are not from your competitors or from authorities, no. And we will not tell anybody in the world about this leak. So it will be confidential between you and us. Negotiate with us and you will get your business back fast.
This whole thing makes me really angry.
Yeah, and this is our reality now. Let's see more on the next slide. So this is the name and shame site, like a publication site or a blog site, leak site, whatever you want to call it. So leaking data only started by the end of 2019. Now, before that, there was no exfiltration with ransomware. Threat actors did not exfiltrate any data. But after that, they started exfiltrating data, especially all the sensitive and confidential information. So ransomware did not equate a data breach. Ransomware was like an IT issue once upon a time. But now, because of data exfiltration, it is now a data breach as well. And there's a lot of legal repercussions with that. Now you can ask why? Why do threat actors do this? Well, because the industry as a whole, I mean, the whole world got so much better with having backups, right? Because we always tell people like, oh, have backups to protect yourself from ransomware. Then everybody got backups. Now everybody's data is getting stolen. And this is what we call the irony of better security. Like the better your security, the worse it gets, so on and so forth. So we are always just in that same loop over and over. And one important example, which I want to share today, is recently we had a hospice claim from one of our Canadian clients. It was a business email compromise. Multiple email users were having issues logging into their Office 365 account. And client said they were entirely logged out of the email tenant. And the threat actor even deleted some of the email accounts. So we, the Coalition Incident Response Team, we went in, identified that the threat actor compromised a Microsoft 365 account, which was designated as a global administrator account. So practically the threat actor got the keys to the kingdom. So in simple words, this enabled the threat actor with supreme privileges. So they reset the user's passwords, deleted all the accounts, and performed all other administrative actions in the tenant. This includes removing almost 200 internal and external user accounts and groups from the tenant, which caused a huge damage. And can you believe it all started with a small phishing email? Yes, one of the users received a phishing email, which appeared to have come from the HR and contained a QR code within the message, which once scanned redirected to a malicious website. Now, the interesting part is that there were a couple of users who still had access to their email accounts, and they received an email from the threat actor with the demand of ransom amount to leave the tenant. So the worst part is after gaining access, the threat actor downloaded all the mailboxes which contain all the sensitive information like PHI and PII. And then more importantly is the impact of it. Like they literally couldn't access their email at all. So they were down for a while. It was super stressful. And then because of the type of access, they had a lot of HIPAA notifications and they had to report it to the privacy commissioner. So it was all a headache and it did not stop there. So if it's a ransomware incident, then it's totally going to take another leap and then cause huge damage to the organization. And that's where they publish the data online. So they leak the data on the dark web and anyone can download them. So in all the ransomware cases today, the threat actors demand the ransom amount for two things. One, if you do not have a backup, then you need to pay for the decryption tool because all your files and folders will be encrypted. You need the decryption tool so that you can come back to an operation. And the other one is what we see mostly happen to people with backups is to pay for data suppression. So they start with a timer. Let's say like you have 5 days to settle this. And if not, they'll threaten to publish the data. And Coalition Incident Response, we negotiate with threat actors. And on average, we get 64% of the discount of the original ransomware amount. So how to handle an incident when it occurs? So these are the phases of incident response. They don't happen one after another. Instead, they work hand in hand throughout the process. And time is critical here. So as soon as an incident is discovered, please report to your insurer. So Coalition Claims Team gets an incident report and then arranges a scoping call with the CIR team and the breach counsel. So it's a tri-party agreement between the client, breach coach, and the CIR team. So the investigation is treated as privileged and confidential, and everything picks up pretty quick after that. So CIR, once gaining access to the environment, we assess the situation, identify the gaps, deploy an ADR tool if it's not already there, and block all the backdoor and persistence from the threat actor. and conduct a thorough investigation, which includes determining the root cause, extent of compromise, and if there is any data exfiltration, if so, to what extent. So we have 30 claims experts and attorneys and 22 incident response team members who are actively available to assist you. And 46% of all the fund transfer events had a full recovery. And there was a 64 reduction in the ransomware demand negotiated by the CIR team, which I mentioned earlier. And let's build a foundation of cyber resilience that stands strong against any threat. And let me know if you have any other questions that we are happy to address.
Thanks, Ramya. So we've got a couple more slides here, and then we'll open it up to questions. So as I kind of touched base a little earlier, when Coalition is approached by brokers for the insureds, we submit all of your domains into our systems, and we actually scan the entire public-facing internet. And what we're doing is we are looking for any vulnerabilities associated with these public-facing domains, because that's what these threat actors are actually capitalizing on. So the best thing to do in this scenario is many insureds have either limited cyber knowledge or they're not really sure what to do. They may have an internal IT provider, or like many of our insureds, they engage with a third-party IT provider. So this is a great opportunity when you've received a quote from potentially Coalition, or a scan has occurred and vulnerabilities have picked up. If you're not sure what to do, this is when you would partner with companies like Foundation BTS to really look into this further and hopefully remediate these vulnerabilities, so that obviously we can offer coverage if that's the route you want to go, but at the bare minimum to be able to patch these vulnerabilities, so at least that gives you further peace of mind and you can have better protection on your network. So one of the most common ones that we see is exposed risky panels. So it's a popular contingency that we come across quite frequently. Many of the times, these are administration panels that have been left exposed to the internet, and it's usually accidentally, but it does end up occurring. And these panels on these devices, they may have specific escalated privilege access methods that are meant only for administrators, or to perform functions that expose other services. So if a threat actor or a hacker, you can refer to either one, we refer to them as threat actors, does compromise your network and they compromise this risky panel, they would be able to gain access to other systems within your network with elevated privileges. So that's when it's kind of like that domino effect. They get in the back door and then it's kind of spreads like wildfire. They can kind of run amok in your networks, which is obviously not what you want to have happen. Another very common vulnerability that we see consistently is exposed Fortinet technology. So Fortinet technology is a firewall software solution that is utilized by many, many companies. It has a lot of associated what we call zero-day exposures. So when they release an update for the latest software, they'll say, we fixed XYZ in this patch, but there's a known vulnerability associated with this aspect of our firewall solution. We're working on patching that. The importance is having this up to date. So again, you would be working with the likes of Foundation BTS to make sure that your systems are up to date. If you received a notification like, hey, you have an exposed Fortinet technology, you would reach out to your IT provider or Foundation BTS to work with them to be able to not only get that up to date, but make sure that your systems are up and running. And again, that's what's the benefit of having services like a third-party IT provider are for. The average insured does not understand what half of this terminology is. And even if they have some limited understanding of what it means, they don't really know where to begin or where to fix this, or what to do, what controls to have in place. That's the benefit of having a third-party provider. They will work in tandem with you. They want to ensure that you have good cybersecurity hygiene, and they want to ensure that you are also protected as well. Because with cyber insurance, it's very similar. The best way to look at it is like risk management. So it's almost like one piece of a puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle that complements it perfectly is having that IT provider, or having that third-party IT provider. Because when they work in tandem together, that is ensuring that you have the best possible protection. Okay, so with this contingency, we ask that they are placed behind controls such as an SSO or a VPN or firewall or filtered access. And if you only use the service for a few locations, you can actually configure the firewall to only allow access from limited IP spaces and two-factor authentication, as it remains an effective control against threat actors trying to brute force your network. Again, this is stuff that you would be engaging Foundation BTS with. They are the ones that would be knowledgeable when it comes to this type of not only terminology, but these controls and this type of software. So working with that IT provider is in your best interest and in tandem with some kind of cyber coverage. So those are some of the most common, I would say, vulnerabilities. There's a litany of other vulnerabilities that can be picked up. These are the ones that we see most frequently, which is why we chose to highlight these ones today. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is actually our last slide. I will flip it back to Paul, and then if there's any other questions, we can open up the floor.
Thank you, Alistair. Guys, that was great information. The next part of this presentation is on what is your cyber insurer looking for if you want to qualify for cyber insurance. Now, I'll be clear. As organizations scale, they face more risk, and the barriers to qualification for cyber insurance also increase. But for most small businesses, these services and technologies that I'm about to illustrate constitute the baseline of what companies like Coalition demand. All right, let's get going. So multi-factor authentication. We already covered this in the presentation, and every business owner should be confident that employees are logging into your networks using multi-factor authentication. MFA consists of something you know, such as a username and a password, as well as something you have, such as access to text on your mobile phone, maybe an authenticator app, an RSA tag like I use it for banking, or even your face or a thumbprint. Why is this important? Well, as Alistair says, while MFA isn't perfect, it does make it exponentially harder for threat actors or cyber criminals to get into your accounts. Security awareness training. There's a lot of business owners I talk to who assure me that they and their employees are too smart to fall for a phishing attack. Yet somehow, claims related to cybercrime now exceed claims due to all natural disasters. This one's fun for me because I've crafted simulated phishing attacks instructing payroll employees to send money to the wrong place, and more than 50% of the time I've had success. So what is security awareness training? It's teaching your employees about the types of cyber fraud that they can face, and then testing them to ensure that if a real attack comes, they're wary and they're less likely to become a victim. And so why does it matter? Well, as our friends at Coalition just said, recovering from a typical cyber attack now costs over $287,000 on average. Here are the components of security awareness training. 1. Employees are required to take e-learning courses. How frequently? Well, it varies and it depends on your level of risk. I've met with financial advisors that are required to take training every single day. And that makes sense because they deal with millions of dollars of their clients' portfolios. A typical small business, however, should expect their employees to take training at least every month. The second component is simulated phishing attacks. This is where fake phishing emails are sent to your employees to see who is likely to be fooled. Your most trusting people might click a link, enter their password somewhere they shouldn't, or they might interact with the pretend attacker. And if they do, we know that they're likely the ones who will fall for a real-world attack. The consequence? Well, depending on your industry, you might be required to take remedial training. Or if you're an industry like IT or financial services, you might get dismissed. Moving along, we get to progress reporting. Managers and owners want to know who is good at protecting the business and who is putting you at risk. These reports shine a light on people in your own company who are a risk to your business. Finally, employees do need a safe place to report suspicious email. So having a resource like this helps people build confidence and not look foolish. Usually within seconds, if they submit a report of a phishing attack, they'll receive feedback saying, yep, that email was phishing, or congratulations, you recognized a simulated attack. The result of security awareness training is that you'll see a cultural shift in your people. They'll become conscious of protecting the business and will support each other, asking questions of each other like, hey, Does this look fishy to you? Cyber insurers like Coalition expect even small businesses to participate in security awareness training. I talk to a lot of people about their password management habits. You want to hear what they tell me? Well, I keep my passwords in this book. Or I require all my employees to report their passwords to me so I can access their systems. Oh, here's another one. We all use the same password to log into the system because it makes things simpler. My favorite, I've had the same password since high school. A really common one is, well, my passwords are in Chrome, but some are in Firefox. And I have others in my iCloud account. Oh, and then I guess I have some in Edge too. And then one that is most risky is I leave my password management to my employees' discretion. The truth is, most of us have terrible password habits because it's hard to keep track, and so without a good password manager, we'll all eventually take shortcuts. And that's what cyber criminals rely on. So many of my friends, not really my best friends, but acquaintances, they'll use like a pet's name and a date, and then they'll throw in an exclamation mark or some kind of punctuation on the end for good measure. And then they'll reuse some variation of that combo on every single account that they use. Cyber criminals and the AI-driven tools they use to hack you are counting on these patterns. It's now a $10 trillion industry, and so they have great tools. So how can you maintain strong, secure passwords that cyber criminals will never guess? The answer is simple. Use a password manager. Backing up your data has been important since computers were a thing. However, when ransomware attacks hit the scene in 2016, having a reliable backup with a proven recovery process became that much more important. And yes, backup and disaster recovery processes have evolved and have improved dramatically. Ramya and Alistair pointed out that cyber criminals have pivoted. Hackers understand that you probably have a good backup, and so they've come up with a new angle. If you're hit with a ransomware attack, threat actors now have two reasons for demanding a ransom. Pay us, and we'll help you recover your encrypted data. Or don't pay us, and we'll expose your company's confidential data to the world, harming your reputation, exposing proprietary information to your competitors, or resulting in lawsuits that you'll face from your clients and your regulators. So, while having a good backup has been extremely important since the dawn of ransomware, the threat of data exfiltration makes prevention more important than ever. Real-time monitoring and response. Well, cyber insurers are now asking how you detect and remediate threats. They want you to have additional protection on your mailboxes to prevent phishing and malware attacks from reaching your employees' inboxes. They want to know that cloud services like Microsoft 365 are being monitored for unusual activity, such as logins from unusual places. They want you to proactively scan your networks and your cloud services for vulnerabilities. Doing these things not only ensures you qualify for cyber insurance, but it also reduces risk. Next, your cyber insurer wants you to prove that you have cyber protection essentials in place. They want you to prove that antivirus, or EDR, or MDR, or XDR, or whatever they're calling it this month, is installed everywhere and it's functioning properly. And they want proof that procedures are in place to update firmware, software, and operating systems to eliminate vulnerabilities. And they want to know, are you testing your backups? Finally, they also want to make sure that MFA is being enforced. Having an incident response plan means that you're prepared for disasters. A good incident response plan extends beyond what to do if you face a cyber incident. It can include what to do if you have a flood in your building or a fire. Your incident response plan needs to be reviewed annually and updated as technology changes. It should include what to do and whom to notify if you have an incident like a ransomware, or if cyber criminals get your customer information, or even what you should do if an individual mailbox is compromised. Your IT company should have generic incident response plans, but should also have customized response plans that are specific to your organization. Coalition says that they help with this as well, which is actually pretty great. This meeting was organized by myself, Paul Lepage from Foundation BTS, and by Mark McMurtrie from Brokerlink. Mark recommends Coalition Insurance, and from what I've seen, Coalition goes further than your typical cyber insurer. Their approach, combined with services like ours, helps to ensure that breaches can be avoided. Mark's number is 905-727-1913, and his direct extension is 41323. Thanks, Mark, for helping me put this together. Oh, last thing, if you scan Mark's QR code, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. Hit pause on this video if you need more time to scan the link. Back to me. My name is Paul Lepage, and I'm grateful you came out to this webinar. I hope it was informative and helpful. Foundation BTS is the IT and cybersecurity provider for nearly 100 companies in the Greater Toronto Area. You can reach me directly at 416-574-6802 or email me at paul.lepage@foundationbts.com. BTS is Bravo, Tango, Sierra.com. You can also scan my QR code, and this will connect us on LinkedIn. Hit pause again on this video if you need more time to scan the code. Thank you everybody for coming out, and have a great rest of your week.